Hi, Ben.
Yigal, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Thank you. First of all, I want to start by saying I'm so glad to have that opportunity to have a conversation. It's very, very special because my experience in your class of data-driven teams, the art and science of winning teams in analytics, was a real inspiration, is a real inspiration for this
nice.
interviews with students, faculty, and the coaches. When I initially thought about that idea of bringing the spotlight to the fellow classmates and faculty and bring that to the larger audience, I knew I want to bring those stories and real experts that can speak to the art and science of winning teams. But I really had an inspiration from the class in terms of the organizing theme. What is really going to be the organizing theme that will bring the spotlight to what we refer now as a winning team, and what it takes to build winning teams that can win consistently over time. Thank you so much for joining. We will start, first of all, maybe with your introduction.
Sure.
If you can share a little bit more about your current role, your experiences that led you to that ability to share with our class, but also with everybody else, the art and science of winning teams.
Absolutely, Yigal. And first of all, just want to thank you for such a humbling comment to begin. I can tell you that as a teacher here at MIT Sloan, every time I walk into a classroom, I view it as a privilege. And what we can create together as a class is what gets me most excited. So for you to share that as a result of our experience working together, that was a small inspiration on this whole initiative is tremendously gratifying to me. So thank you for that. In terms of my background, how I've come to this topic, I have had the great pleasure of being on the faculty here at MIT Sloan for the last 12 years. Prior to Sloan, though, I was in the industry, and I worked for ESPN, sports media firm of the Walt Disney Company, and I joined ESPN in 2008. And still to this day, people tell me that I look young. I don't know. You can be the judge of that.
You are.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, if you think I look young today, imagine how young I looked 18 years ago when I walked into the halls of ESPN, and I just finished my PhD, got my PhD really young at 26, and it was right around the time when the company was trying to figure out social media. So Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and kind of looked around and they saw me and they're like, hang on a second, we got a kid working for us. He must know something about social media. I, of course, joke. But turns out I had spent my doctoral research on understanding the implications of the internet on the sports fan experience. And so it was a very easy transition for me to slot into the role of director of social media for the company. I mention that because that was such a formative experience in my development as a leader, because I was able to build that team from scratch. I was able to manage that team, and we had enormous amounts of data that we could use in managing that team. And I like to think, because of the collection of amazing individuals that we had on that team, that we were a winning team. Mm-hmm. And when I left ESPN to join MIT, I just came away with an obsession around, number one, why do teams win? And number two, what is the role of data in producing winning? And with those two passions, those two obsessions, I created the course that you work with me on, and also have been pursuing this interest in a number of different writing projects and consulting projects as well. So that's how I come to you today about this very fascinating question to me.
First of all, such a rich experience and the story of coming from academia, immersing yourself so deeply into something that is innovative and really almost calling for that art and science of winning teams and making the difference, in the company, but also the ability to tell those stories, share those stories with the public, and then coming back to business school #1 in the world now, according to Financial Times, MIT Sloan.
MIT Sloan.
Right, and this is where we're building winning teams, and we empowering leaders or leaders of the future to be able to build winning teams. And you mentioned something very interesting, that you yourself experienced the winning team.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really about how we can apply analytical tools and what practical principles, recommendations we might have, or you have as an expert in that field. But it's also about our own experiences.
Yeah.
What is this? And this was, I remember not that long ago, the experience I had in the class. This was something very important for me also to almost ground myself and for my classmates. To think, what is your winning team, or what was a team that felt like a winning team?
Yeah.
To what extent this is almost like essential ingredient to kind of experience yourself winning team before kind of we get to the point that we can see how this can work. Is this something that you feel is very, very essential to have those experiences when you try to build, say, a new team, and you try to establish those practices in your new organization or with your new team that you're working with?
Yeah, I do think it's essential, Yigal, for a couple of reasons. First, I'm a big believer that you learn through experience. It's a big philosophy here at MIT Sloan, right? It's not just knowledge and theory, it's about how you apply it. So being on a team that wins, experiencing that, wanting to repeat that, I think that's really important. The second thing is there's also a lot of value in losing, right? And oftentimes, right, maybe there are some exceptions, but in order to win and to win big, you got to lose along the way. And so being on a team that experiences some loss and bonds as a result of those losses and learns from those losses, I think that's also a really essential ingredient. So yeah, really important for you to experience winning as well, because you learn through experience, but also absolutely essential to experience losing, because sometimes through those failures you get even greater lessons that can stand the test of time.
That's such an important insight. So it's really about the spectrum of experiences, the continuum of those experiences, as opposed to, of course, it's amazing to be part of a winning team. I know how it looks like. I know how it works. Maybe I will try to apply those principles to my next team, or share my advice with others. It's also about the experiences, not only what great looks like, but also what it takes to get there.
Yeah, I mean, as a leader in business, and sometimes it's easier said than done. I mean, all of our teams have performance metrics that we have to hit. There are bottom line realities, but to the extent that you can, creating those opportunities for losses, right? In sports, it's baked in. Very few teams at any level go perfect season every single season. You always have losses. And so there are opportunities for you to learn from those losses. In business, again, we have that pressure to deliver. There's often perfectionism. And the more that we as leaders can create those spaces for the losses to happen, not intentionally, but you can't win every single time. So when the losses do happen, how can we learn from them and actually use them to strengthen our team's performance going forward? I think we need to create more opportunities for that in the business world.
It's a great way to think about the process, right? Versus just almost imagining that it's really about winning consistently over time, but game after game, or challenge after challenge. So what very inspiring is that to see that there is art to that, and maybe some level of luck, but there is actually principled way to not only think about winning teams, but also have a principled framework for winning teams. And this is really, really interesting kind of to see how this, what are those key components of this framework, and how from your rich experience this translates sports,
Sure.
professional sports, but also beyond professional
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know from working here at MIT Sloan, we have a lot of frameworks, and frameworks are not perfect, right? But they are useful in helping us think about solving problems. And the framework that I've developed for the course that we worked on together is one that helps us answer the question, why do teams win? And the argument that I make in this framework is that teams win because of at least 4 elements. One is, of course, the management of the team, okay, the team leadership. The second, of course, is the talent on the team, right? The players or the employees. The third is the system of the team, how the talent is organized, the way that they play together. And then the fourth is the culture of the team, the underlying values and critically behaviors and habits of the team. And those 4 elements are essential in winning teams. My principal argument in the framework is we've got to harmonize all 4. That is, the management of the team has to fit well with the talent. The talent of the team, the star players and the supporting players need to fit well together. The system of the team has got to be designed around the talents of the players on the team so that they can reach their highest potential. And then the culture of the team must be built intentionally over time so that it can support the development of the management and the team, and even support a system shift if and when the competition calls for it. And again, we need all 4. And there's plenty of examples in professional sports where if you don't have all 4, you're not going to win sustainably over time. Like, as an example, I know we've bonded a bit over basketball. In the NBA, there's a team, Phoenix Suns, and they had a few years ago 3 superstar players, right? They had Kevin Durant, one of the best players of all time, Devin Booker. They had also a superstar player, Bradley Beal, although many people now argue that he may have lost that status, which is definitely a fair argument. Point is, the idea is let's put these 3 superstars together, and therefore we win. Unfortunately, as people that know basketball, and if you're a Suns fan, you know that that formula didn't work, because although the talent was off the charts, had a hard time fitting the talent into a system that would work well together, because the team was so superstar heavy, that was having an impact on the culture. And because the team couldn't make it work, they ended up trying to change the coach to get in new voices to help the team, and it ultimately fell apart, right? So the point that I'm making again is this notion of these are 4 elements that we know intuitively are important, but the art, the magic, is in how you harmonize them together to win more consistently over time.
And that's very interesting way to almost evaluate teams that, again, successful winning over time consistently versus what are those challenges that almost the barriers, the obstacles to get there, because intuitively, one might think that it's really about like assembling the all-stars team.
Yes.
And I'm taking this to, my own experiences or my, peers, my classmates would think, oh yeah, I'm on the entrepreneurship path. I'm going to build my startup. The first thing I'll bring the few stars from my previous experiences of people I know. I really need all-stars team, and that's how we're just going to crush it.
Yeah.
And what's important, you're saying in your framework that, again, repeatedly showing, demonstrating that that's the path to actually failure, if you do that, is to suggest that it's about harmonizing. And actually, if you think that you are going to succeed tremendously just because you put these 5 great minds together. These are the superstars of the marketing, the technology, the engineering. Just like almost no way you're going to fail. Interesting, you're saying it's again it's about the context, of course. But in generally speaking, this is actually a recipe for almost a disaster because you are not creating this. Harmonizing these four elements you mentioned, the four components are like there is a very significant, like you over-indexing one part of that frame of these four winning components, if you will.
That's right.
And it comes on expense of some of the other components that may, everybody now can see. Okay, these are the stars of that. Let's read them as, and then this is actually it can be very, very challenging. So almost share advices, but like it's almost to say like there are actually ways to. This framework can be very, very much applicable far beyond the professional sports when some of this, myths of all-stars team, it's not working in professional sports, and it's most likely going to lead to very, very challenging ability for you to actually win if you think that it's all about the ability to assemble this all-stars team.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, I see that happen in the business world quite a lot. And to your point, not always successfly. I, for instance, might see a CEO have a star employee who has all the talent in the world, but their behavior is such that they show up late, they don't treat people well, so on and so forth. Their behavior is such that it's dragging down the culture of the organization. So it's possible that that CEO can have 2 great quarters and continue to have great quarters because of this star employee. But you really have to stop and ask yourself the question, at the expense of the long-term health of my culture, is it worth it? And ultimately, it becomes a trade-off. So my message is just to be clear about the trade-offs, right? Am I willing to align with this star employee for the next 3, 4, 5 years and absorb that negative impact on the culture as a result of their behavior if they are delivering the results that I'm looking for? I can't tell any CEO how to make that decision. For me, easy for me to say in this chair, if I'm advising that CEO and thinking about the long-term health of the organization, I might ask, hey, is there another person that may not be as talented, but could get you some of those results? Or better yet, is there a team of people that may not have this prodigious talent of this individual, but can still deliver some great results to you and also help you build a healthier company? And oh, by the way, have a better fit between you as the management and as the talent as well, because that relationship is really important. A CEO and their top lieutenant, or a chairman of the board and the CEO, like that's a really important relationship that's got to be healthy. Doesn't mean they always have to agree, doesn't mean they have to be the same, but it's got to be healthy. And so I would just encourage a CEO in that instance to look at all the elements that are operating and make the trade-off that's best for them in that situation. I'm sharing with you in my easy-to-say chair what I would think about, but I do encourage folks to look more holistically at their team in these different ways.
It's a great way to think about this. You're making such an important point on data-driven analytics, right? It's how we can use data to really inform strong performance over time, winning over time. What are those metrics? If you like to share, again, maybe in professional sports, but also metrics that can be applicable across different industries that you find. Look, those, like if you have a good hand on those, like if you can trace those, this is something that you might want to nurture. You want to cultivate in your organization, because these are the metrics that can help you make those data-driven decisions.
For me, I like the mental model of understand what your end goal is, what your win is, right? And make sure that that is quantifiable over a defined period of time, okay? In the sports world, it's we want to win the game at the end of 9 innings, or we want to win the game at the end of 90 minutes or 48 minutes, whatever the case may be is, it's really clear that goal, which is quantified at the end of the game, it's clear what that is. And if you're clear on that, you can work back and start to understand, okay, what are the most important predictors of that outcome? Okay? So, for example, in basketball, in order to win the game, typically it's important to score as many points as you can per possession. So maximize your points per possession. Every time a team has the ball, right? How can you maximize your points per possession? Okay? So understanding every single time you go down the floor what is going to maximize your number of points per possession, that's an important level of knowledge for you, as a team builder and as a team manager.
So it's an outcome tied to the unit of analysis.
Correct, exactly. And so if we have the higher points per possession as a team, the greater likelihood we're going to win the game. Now, of course, there's a defensive component to this as well. You want to limit your opponents to the lowest possible points per possession, but you can analytically break down winning a game into different component parts. What does that mean for business? If you're very clear on what your revenue goal is or what your operational efficiency goal is, if you can understand and break down what are the primary predictors of that outcome, then you have at least one model for measuring and optimizing performance. Okay? That to me is sometimes met with pushback from people in business. Well, sports is a zero-sum game. There's either a winner or a loser. Well, I understand that. And at the same time, we in business set goals all the time. We always set goals. But there's opportunity to do more analysis to understand, well, what are the predictors of those specific goals? And how do we align our team and our work and our process to ensure that we deliver on those predictors so we put ourselves in the best position to achieve those goals. So that's one approach that I would encourage folks to take that we can learn from sports and apply to the business context.
That's really insightful. Of course, when the financial goals, let's say, the growth in sales, uptake in sales versus churn rate, and what are the factors that contribute to those two metrics, and basically identifying your unit of analysis that really not only makes sense from, say, just because you can trace it, just because you can measure that, but you can basically make the attribution to the contributing factors that that you have maybe not full control of, but you have certain ability to make adjustments to optimize for the performance.
And you know where to focus, right? You know exactly where to focus. Like, to use your example, if it's very clear that a primary predictor of revenue growth every quarter is churn rate, right? And if that's clear to you as the CEO and to the rest of your management team, then that provides more focus. We know exactly what is going to predict whether or not we're going to get the win. And so we can put our focus strategically, operationally on that specific issue. And that, to me, that level of clarity is incredibly helpful in running a winning team.
And it really traces back to what you said before. It's about the team win, the team play, because experiencing that across different organizations, when say, okay, that's a sales problem.
Yeah.
No,
it's not.
This is the composition of these different players.
Absolutely.
It's a customer success. It's there are many components that contribute to this.
Yeah.
And what these amazing players on the on the field, like they bring it all together. Into the show.
Yes, exactly.
Right? But there is the whole team that is responsible for this success or certain challenges to meet the goals.
Yeah, and that's another opportunity for the team leadership to show, if it's not clear, if it's indirect, what these other parts of the organization are doing to meet that goal or to contribute to that. If it's not clear or if it's indirect, that's an opportunity for the leader to make that clear. And when you do get that win, right? When you do get that win, making sure to celebrate the success. One other inspirational note from the sports world, of which there are many, when professional teams, at least here in the US, when they win championships, often is the practice that not just the players get rings, the coaches get rings, of course, but other staff within the organization get rings. So if you work in marketing, you get a ring. If you work in HR, you get a ring. If you work in sales, IT, you get a ring. Now you had, in terms of play on the field, you weren't playing. You had nothing to do with that championship in terms of the play on the field, but you contributed to that win in your job in another way. And I'm not saying that business leaders should get their people rings for every big win, but it's that notion that we've got to acknowledge the contributions of everyone to this big team goal, because everyone did play a role, even if it meant you weren't on the field during the actual game. You did something that helped us get the win that we're now celebrating.
It's about like I said, it's about the recognition of your contribution to this win. And if we take it to, the healthcare world, or say medical device company, the engineer behind this, heart pacer or statistician who made it work in terms of showing that there is a clinical, benefit of that. Yeah. So having this recognition for folks almost like behind the scene, if you will, right, is so essential.
And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. And that's such a missed opportunity, I think, for many leaders. Like the recognition and a simple handwritten note or a simple phone call from the CEO when a major win happens to people that are in the back office or to people that are behind the scenes, that can go so far if you're willing to put in a little bit of time to do so.
Makes perfect sense. So it's interesting angle for us here to kind of uncover in those interviews as well is the talent development angle. Here in Sloan, of course, we are all about developing principled and innovative leaders. What do you see as the key maybe lessons or elements of developing principled and innovative leaders who almost embrace that capability of seeing and bringing to life, the ability to build winning teams. And so from the talent development standpoint, where do we see the greatest potential in that framework?
Across the board, what I see is the skill and the passion to learn continuously. When you are making decisions on people that you want to bring onto your team, if you can find someone who has the requisite skills for the job and meets a threshold in terms of talent and skills for the job, then to me, the next most essential quality to screen for is ability and passion for learning. If you don't have that, the talent development part of your question is almost irrelevant. You've got to have people with a demonstrated willingness and curiosity to learn and to get better and to respond to feedback. We see that in sports a lot, right? We can track that with measurable progress in performance. But I study drafts. These are in the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball. All the major professional sports have drafts, as you know, where the professional teams select players from colleges or international contexts, and sometimes players don't have a lot of performance data. And so being able to identify other parts of their background or through the interview process to understand if this person has a strong ability to learn and a curiosity and passion that's going to drive continuous learning. When you combine players or employees with talent that is above a certain threshold that you need for a specific job with the passion for learning and curiosity, that is a very strong combination that's going to make your talent development process that much easier and that much more effective. So I think that's point one. The other point, just quickly, Yigal, on this one is going back to the system fit, right? If you have a really clear idea of how your team works together, the system of your team, that means you understand what the roles are. And if you understand what the roles are, you have a clear focus on the specific skills that you need in those roles. That makes your talent development process a lot easier. Number one, in terms of trying to find talent, you're so clear on what you're looking for, that helps you evaluate whether people have it. And then in terms of developing people that are already in your organization, you can point to them and say, hey, look, if you want that role, this is what is required in that role within the team system. This is what we got to work on to get you there. So that's the other consideration. Like if you have a really strong system and you have clarity around the roles in your system and the skills required in those roles, that just makes the talent development process not easy, but more straightforward for you and your organization.
So it's so interesting, how it. So basically, this immediate feedback in professional sports, and one of the amazing Executive MBA classmates that we had the opportunity to have an interview with him. It's about the NASCAR, about the professional motorsport, and he also highlighted that. Combination of there's a winning team, but there is a very specific and very immediate feedback you get whether or not you are on the right track.
Yes.
Winning a race, right? Essentially, is the ultimate goal. And this is interesting that this is, of course, the difference with most industries. The ability to trace the outcome. The outcome is much more kind of removed, sometimes using certain proxy measures to get there because maybe it's going to be too late even to intervene. So there is something very special there.
Yeah.
But I think what's, to me, very interesting in the way you're describing that we might think this way, but it is about the journey.
Yes.
It is about this developmental journey and this increments, like agile. We like in Israel, agile approach. But essentially, there is something there to this increments of learnings and improvement that can happen. And to me, it was very eye-opening and insightful when you shared this example of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
You can share with us.
Of course.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the concepts that I hear coaches talk about a lot, and one that I'm particularly fascinated by in professional sport, is process over outcome. Process over outcome, which means if you have the right process and you commit to it, more often than not, you are going to put yourself in position to win. Okay? If you practice good process and you are consistent with it, more often than not, you are going to put yourself in position to win. I mention that because Brady is an illustrative example of that. I mean, for those of you in your audience that don't know, Tom Brady was not a high pick in the NFL draft. He was one of those hidden gems. He didn't play a lot at the University of Michigan. He played some, but definitely in the performance data, he didn't get the indication that he was going to be the greatest quarterback of all time. But once he got his opportunity, and even before then, you can tell and you hear stories about how he was so committed to his process in terms of his improvement and preparation for game day, that commitment to a very strong process in how he took care of his body and how he prepared, in how he studied his opponents, that commitment to that process put him in position to win as much as he did, right? It just wasn't on sheer talent alone. His talent was there. It met a threshold of talent, right? I mean, he was a good enough football player to be a quarterback in the NFL, but the differentiators came in how he constructed and applied his process, and then how the system was built around him in New England, the fit with his coach, Bill Belichick, and how his behaviors as a star player inculcated the rest of the culture of the organization. Those are at least some of the ingredients as to why New England was such a successful team for so many years. And really a great example of the harmony between management, talent, system, and culture. Not without some bumps along the way. Any New England Patriots fan or any NFL fan knows that that run was not without controversy. But when you step back and look at it, and you ask yourself the question, what made it work? My argument is in part that because they had strong harmony, strong fit between the management, the talent, the system, and the culture, that was a big driver of the New England Patriots' success.
That's really an amazing example for how those four elements of the framework come together into tremendous success. And what was we learned from you and your experience is that those elements, this framework translates so clearly across industry. So it's not very just specific to professional sports. There is a clear implication to across industries, and of course work with executives and leaders across organizations can show that. Can you share with us maybe an example for again from your work with senior leaders in maybe in one of the companies, when you see that those elements come together, or anything, any case if you would like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like to start my work with executives on a very, very specific goal. I get them to think about what is the win, right? What is the win? And the reason why that's important is that, again, every executive has goals for every quarter, every year. But in order to create emotional heat around a competition, which I think is important, I like the idea of, hey, let's set a goal of something that is an optimal challenge, something that we can go and work together to meet. It might be a little bit of a stretch, but really if we work well together, we maximize our talents, we maximize the system that we can meet. So I always like to start there. I think that's a really important one. In terms of some specific examples in teaching this course over the years, I've worked with a lot of different organizations on applying the framework to create winning teams. One that I'm particularly proud of is I had some leaders from the U.S. Forestry Service come and work with me in this program, applying a number of the principles that we've already discussed here. And they used it to help fight forest fires here in the U.S., and their work actually was written up on the front page of the Wall Street Journal.
Wow.
Which was a nice example that, hey, there's a lot that you can learn from the sports world, and the applications, while always useful, are not always perfect. So the applications may not always be perfect, but there are ways that you can get inspiration and adapt what we talk about in this class to your own context, and that example is one that I'm particularly proud of.
and this is about life-saving
Yeah,
situations.
exactly,
And,
exactly.
Winning means that
Yes.
I'm assuming saving
Correct.
lives.
That's right. That's exactly
one of the
right.
main one of the main goals
That's
in
exactly
that
right.
context.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Anything that we haven't discussed and you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah. I guess my closing comment is about the art. We've talked a lot about the science and some of the theory, and I believe that winning teams at the end of the day also come down to understanding the motivations of each of the people on your team and being able to get performance out of the people on your team in ways that not only make them better individually, but make the collective better. And so being able to understand those motivations, being able to get others to work on behalf of their teammates is something that has always been critical in winning teams. And even in the age of AI, where we're going to have AI teammates, I think will be even more important. Getting people to believe in something that is bigger than themselves and contribute to something that is bigger than themselves, that is good for you as a team leader. And I also think it's fundamentally human that we want to be a part of amazing teams and amazing accomplishments like that. So I wish everybody well. I know your audience is comprised of very successful team builders. People like yourself have been building teams your entire career and doing incredibly well at it. My hope is just to give you a little bit of a different perspective from the world where I spend a lot of time, which is sports, in the hopes that some of these ideas are useful to all of you. So I just want to thank you, Yigal, for your vision and leadership for this series, and appreciate you having me on, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for the inspiration for this series, and of course, very, very important insights that you share with all of us here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Winning teams.
We did it.